Mr. Zac Thompson.
Mr. Jack Frimston.
It is very rare that we get to even sit in the same room
Very
as
rare.
each other.
Very rare. We're a real team's friendship, aren't we?
We love Teams. I've heard of Zoom. It's okay.
It's okay. Look, other providers are out there.
Other providers are available, but we are, I would say, blessed today to be in the same room. There's a bit of business going on in the Big Smoke, and I was in the Big Smoke, and I actually announced it to my team. I said, if anyone wants to book a meeting for Zac, Zac's in London, he's free next afternoon. And I said, wait, is Zac in London next afternoon? And they all said, yeah, you just told us that. I thought, I might be in London as well.
And you connected the dots there, did you?
I connected that. I'm quite good at solving problems, connecting dots. So I thought, we had an idea. I think you rang me and said, I've got an idea. And I said, I bet I can beat you to it. And you said, should we get together, get in a room, a load of microphones, some comfy, gorgeous sofas that complement the outfit.
Yeah.
And maybe just chat live.
Just chat live.
Chat shop.
Chat shop. I think that's what people want to hear. They want to hear...
The shop.
The method behind the madness.
And what is the madness?
Well, it's yet to be decided. I'm seeing a therapist. Maybe they'll diagnose me at some point.
We'll see what we've got. Okay, so we're thinking we're going to do a big episode. We did one earlier in the year about like the agency, the story. I was thinking we should really break down some of the habits, the skills, the secrets of how we've grown the agency.
Yeah.
And how we got it to a point where it was 6 figures. So it's always a bit weird talking money. But
We're talking money. People like the money.
People like the money.
Andrew Tate, what colour's your Bugatti?
Red and yellow. I've got two.
I've got two, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I've got two. So, I think a good place to start, okay? You're the brainchild of We Have a Meeting.
Stop. Come on.
Too many compliments. I was talking to my mum about it maybe this morning or yesterday, and I was saying, when Zac started the company, it was like you, and I think I said this to you once in a bar after the summer party, it's like you was on a sinking cruise ship and you jumped into the ocean with nothing around you. And then you said, oh, Jack, I found a door. I think it can fit two in.
And you wanted to be my Kate Winslet, did you?
I wanted to be your Kate Winslet. And I jumped in and we both sat on this door, and I feel like over time we're building our own little boat.
Yeah.
That's a nice...
We're building separate boats, or we're building the same boat?
No, we're building the same boat together.
Right.
We're both rowing.
We're both rowing. Oh, mate. We're both rowing.
We're rowing, all right. So let's get into it. So I want to backtrack. So 3 years ago, let's think 3 years ago to the day. I know there's been something interesting that's happened recently. So 3 years ago, where were you in your life? And let's talk about why WHAM We Have a Meeting exists.
I think that's a good place to start. Maybe I'll set the scene for myself and then...
Please.
Set the same for you. And
get comfy.
Okay.
Tell me more.
So, 3 years ago, I was working in a business that had to sort of flip on its head in the pandemic. It was an events company that during the pandemic obviously couldn't put events on, became a marketing agency. And I was always brought into businesses to do the very cold end-to-end sales role. So the thought of SDR, AE, that separation, I didn't even know that existed until I started our business. So what I was doing was basically, for all the businesses that I worked in, finding my own leads, booking my own meetings, sitting my own meetings, closing my own deals, doing my own follow-up referral, whatever you do after that. And I was always pretty much able to do it with some level of by hook or by crook, yeah? And then when I found out I was having my first son, who's just turned 3, I thought I need to get really smart at this, really, really good at this, yeah? The pandemic had hit, I was furloughed, there was some times do a lot of reading, my son was born, and then I heard Mike Winnett and Benjamin Dennehy on a podcast. I think it was Benjamin who actually said, if you're in a pandemic working from home without anyone looking over your shoulder and you're doing the sales job and someone's taking the lion's share of the commission that you're bringing in, you're missing a trick. And it just sort of it was the little spark that started a fire almost. And that idea kept going on in my head. And I didn't really like my boss in a professional capacity. I always struggled a bit with authority anyway. It was coming to its sort of natural conclusion. I was booking the meetings and making the money, but I think we just weren't getting on well. They were moving to London, I live in Dorset, and it just felt like maybe something needs to change here. But I had that idea that I'd heard on that podcast with Benjamin and Mike, and I just thought, I wonder if I could do this for lots of other businesses. What I do here, and I didn't know there was companies that are like sales agencies and stuff.
That's one of the things that baffled me. When you told me this idea, I'd never heard it. And then when we've got into the space, there's competitors, people that do it this way, people that do it that way, people that promise the world and do all these different things. But it was like you created lead generation as a service. And then you get into it, you're like, why are all these other bloggers doing it? Do you know what I mean?
People really know what it is straight away. So basically, I had a few clients. There was a few clients that I'd never won, and there was a few clients that I had on board, and I just mentioned the idea to them, like, oh, if someone could do this for you. But weirdly enough, a few of them came to me with the idea, saying, oh, I don't need someone to get me leads. I need someone who can go out and do something with them and book me meetings. But you've got a sales team. Yeah, but they're not. They're the wine and dine, account management, cocaine lunches, and strip club account management. You can't do that in the pandemic. Ah, okay. So if I could do that for you, well, yeah, I'd be interested. I'd probably pay you for that. Right?
Okay.
And then I think, I'm not joking, maybe 3 or 4 people said it to me in the space of maybe a week or two. And I thought, oh, something's trying to show me something here. The universe is trying to show me there's a direction of traffic here that I need to be thinking about. And then I left my job and started the business. So we can pause there maybe.
Well, I was going to say, like, before you started the business, I'm guessing you had a year's wage in the bank, you had clients already signed up, you had the tech system already in place, all of those different things, right?
That's what you think. That's what you think.
Well, I feel like I know the truth.
I can give people that, and this is the scary honesty of it all. So my personal situation was, I started the business in July. My 4th son was due in January. I would have got that myself. I know when he's born.
Just pushing you along. We're brothers. It's fine.
In January, yeah. And I had 1 month's wage in the bank. I've got a mortgage to pay. I've got children to feed. I had to make it work in that time. But what I did, and I think it's definitely a lesson that I try and teach our guys, is if you stack the odds in your favour, it's unreasonable for it not to work. So the very, very simple thought I had was, if I can book 2 meetings for myself a day in that first month, then that's 40 meetings a month. If I can't make any money out of 40 people sitting down with me that have the problem that we solve, there's a bigger problem. Yeah. And the problem is I probably need to just knock it on the head altogether, and sales isn't really something that I'm going to be very good at or be able to deliver on. So that was it. That was the odds. And then the 9th cold call that I made on the first day, a guy on the phone to me, and it should have been a red flag because he's a red flag type client, said, if you can do that for me, I'll pay you right now. It was a bit like that Wolf of Wall Street moment where like, if you show me shit,
I'll leave.
So he was my first client, so I took him on. He was very cheap, didn't really know how to cost it to start off with. He bit my hand off, paid me up front, and away we went. And then a few of the other clients that we had, well, one of them was Panasonic, who I can talk about because they're on our website as a case study. But I'd always been trying to win their business in my previous job. And the guy that used to be the marketing guy there was always really nice to me. Like, he always would like sit the meetings and was like open to having the conversation. And then when I told him what I was doing next, he was like, now you're talking.
That's what we want.
Rang me up, was really like transparent with the budget, the expectation, what could you do for this? And that was really the bit of cash injection that got me over the first few months. And like, when I got that in, I was like, oh, okay, fine, I feel good. And it was actually, I was driving back from somewhere where they gave me the green light, and then another number rang me and said, Zac, I've just had my boss saying would be happy to sign this off and get it going. So then there was like this moment of, have I got a bit too much now? And then for one of the clients there, I did a cold call, and a guy that I cold called said, do you work for them, or do you... And oh no, I do this as a third party. Oh, I'm looking for this as well. It was really weird. And then that's when I started knocking on your door.
The universe was working.
So why don't we stop there with my ramblings? And I think it's important that you set the scene for what 3 years ago looked like for you.
3 years ago, so I would say, looking back, I was in a bad place, but not like mentally. I mean,
Salford.
Yeah, Salford. I was physically in a bad place, but it was just the pandemic hit, and obviously you know, but for anyone listening, they might not know. But I was working on a cruise ship as a singer. So the cruise ship, like I was out there. I'd done that for a few years, and I'd always worked in sales. Like my first job at 15 was a sales job, and trying to do a bit of music on the side, gigging. I'd always worked sales jobs, so I'd always had that passion. I was out in Miami singing on a cruise ship. Pandemic hits. Everyone's worried about loo roll. Next thing you know, I'm at sea. 30 days. Didn't know what to do. Right, okay, bloody hell. Come back. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. I was like, well, I like to work. I don't like to just do nothing. And I got a little job at Amazon, just stacking parcels. And I thought, this isn't what my life's meant to be. I'm not meant to be working at Amazon. And I was like, I'm not going back on the cruise ships. And we've always spoke about, like, we're very into psychology and self-improvement and self-development and all things like that. We were listening to a lot of the same podcasts, and it was around that time that I really got into the podcast. And you start to think about, like, can I do something a bit more? And then I left Amazon after a little while, and I was like, I'm not born to stack parcels. These hands, they're far too soft to pick up parcels. And I moved to Manchester. I was like, I'll have a fresh start. And I got a job in sales, selling like commercial insurance, fleets, vans, chatting to really blokey blokes. I was like, oh, I am good at this, but it just wasn't right for me. It was just like ticking along, doing a sales job, nothing really. But we're in the pandemic, so you're like, what can you do? I was like, wait till the pandemic's over, and then I'll think about what I want to do with my life. Knock, 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 rat-a-tat-tat. My best friend at the door. I've got a proposition for you.
Yeah.
And you hit me with it. And it sounded good. Well, I remember you texting me saying I've had a brainwave. And
still got that text, haven't you?
Yeah, I've still got the text, and I'm such a shit friend for what I text back, and I just said, "Are you okay, mate?"
What, when I said I've got an idea?
Yeah, I've got an idea. Like, is everything all right? Just checking in on you. And you hit me, and you was like, "There's an opportunity. There's no guarantees. I can't pay you the earth, but you can come in, and I think it's gonna work." There was a lot of doubt, if we're being honest, whether coming to work with you was going to work, because you knew you were good at it, and you were kind of at the point, and I knew I could sell, but it was like a new style of selling, like the way that we sell now, that I've definitely picked up on new styles. And it was a case of like, well, if I don't do well and you pay me a wage, that's X amount of money off the table. Your kids might not eat, you might not be able to pay your mortgage, and I'm just sat there like, cheers, mate. Could ruin our friendship. Everything could have gone wrong. Yeah,
exactly. And there was I think, there's the thing that we talk about a lot, that like, oh, we've been best friends for all this time, but we're like family. Like, we've known each other a very, very long time, grown up together, lived together at points in our life. So there was that real, and I think some of our friends and even some of our family, I think that what your dad said, I don't know if we can share that. I was going to like scam you or something. But our friends and family were all like, is that a really good idea? And my wife Emma was like, thought it was a good idea, but she just said you'd have to just set some ground rules, which I think is wise. And that's kind of what I think what's probably important is it was a few conversations, it wasn't spur of the moment, and actually advice I think for people is we could have really focused on imagine all the money we're going to make and how well we're going to do, and focused on like all the good side of it. But really, if you remember, the bulk of those first conversations were what happens if it doesn't work. What sort of the preemptiveness around like you don't hit commission, because you started off as like a salesperson.
Yeah, I remember my my old boss. I changed my LinkedIn profile when I left, and I was like, well, I know I always felt like coming into you. Technically, I was an employee because I didn't want to risk it coming in straight away, and it was like, let's just see where we get to. And I remember changing my LinkedIn profile to head of sales, and one of the bosses turned around and goes, "It's quite funny. I saw that you're head of sales. There's only two of you. What are you head of?" I was like, I'll bloody show you, Michael."
Like the last laugh now, eh? What was he called, Michael?
No.
Michael, what camera are you on? If you're watching, mate, you're fucking wrong.
So it was mental, and the way that you really painted the picture of this is going to be hard. You're going to have to get in at this time. Like, you're going to have to cold call every single day, rejection. No one's around you to pick you up. You've got to be a self-starter, self-motivated. And I think I was just like, let's just do it. Like, but there was a lot of conversation, and in between it, I was like, oh well, I might try and do this, or I might go down another path. I was still on that like seesaw of indecision of what am I gonna do? Is this the right path for me? And then I think I said it at some point last year. It was like I made the best decision ever.
Yeah,
it was like it was.
I remember the final conversation we had about it. You came to visit, and I said, "Should we go and walk the dog?" Started raining.
We started kissing.
Barry White started playing.
Love's in the
air. But we were on that walk, and I really just laid it out. All the cons, no pros. That's what you need to think about. I won't make a decision now, mate. You left. The next morning, you rang me on your way back to Manchester and said, right, I'm in. And your commitment, do you remember what your commitment was?
I remember. So I'll give you 1 year.
But there was the thought of, if 3 months hasn't worked, I want to have like a probation almost. So if 3 months hadn't worked, then we'd just both shake hands and agree to leave it there. It
could have I think maybe you can shine a light on this, but when you started, you weren't working from an office. You was going up to your bedroom. And I think like if you had some of the hard days, because we all know cold calling, sales, selling, rejection, it's very tough on the mind, and you've got to have a killer mindset. So you go up, you have a hard day, you have a hard morning, whatever. You go down, you see your smiling son, you see your lovely partner at the time, and now she's a wife. And now she's a wife. Look how far you've come. But you kind of had that safety blanket. I was working in an office, and it was just like I've got to sit in this little cubicle making cold calls, and people are staring at me thinking that bloke's bloody weird because he doesn't leave that hot sticky cube.
Yeah.
And just cold call. And like if you've had a hard day, luckily we had each other to lean on.
Yeah.
Which was great, and it filled you with doubt. But I really remember our first day, and it's quite fitting. First day, I think it was 8:30. We did a podcast. Do you remember?
Yeah, the first thing we did was a podcast.
The first thing we did together was a podcast, and then I had the data. And maybe this is where we'll really get into it, how we started, because back then there was no Cognism, Zoom Info, Lucia. It was Google, a mobile phone, no headsets, no dialer systems, no nothing. And it was like, it might be a good place if people are thinking about like where's a good place to find like leads. There'd been a marketing exhibition on, and you said if these people are advertising at the marketing exhibition, the chances are they're probably going to want to get in front of new people.
That's the purpose of B2B expos.
Yeah,
is always lead generation by hook or by crook. Usually done by someone who's maybe a business owner or a marketing director who set that up to feed the sales team leads, because deep down they know that the sales team without those warm leads isn't going to do anything. But there's some stats around expos. I can't remember the exact number. It's something really mad. Like 60 to 70% of leads that are generated in an expo aren't followed up. So it's almost you pissing money in the wind, really. But the problem would exist, or you wouldn't. Some of the stands at these events are like 60 grand. You wouldn't spend that much money if you didn't want to solve that problem. The motivation wasn't there. So my thought process was just if they're on that website and advertised as platinum sponsor and whatever else they're advertised as, those people will have that problem and be looking for a solution to it. And that's where that 9th cold call wasn't just the 9th cold call to anyone I made. It was the 9th cold call to someone on one of those lists. Yeah,
and I think that's where you've got to be really clever. Like, there's no point just dialing and getting the numbers in. Be smart with the people that you're calling, because think if I love the analogy. Like, no one's banging their head against the wall saying I need a CRM. They're thinking I'm so disorganized. Okay, so who is going to be disorganized? Okay, well, it's the CEO of maybe a small business. Okay, then LinkedIn Sales Nav is your friend, and Google office numbers and the gatekeeper stuff. I was just like, I just loved it when you get through and someone would, and this was the whole, maybe break it down, but the whole reason of why we're called We Have a Meeting is when you think it's tell me where that came from.
So when I was looking to think of a name for the business, the way I imagined it, again, I didn't know about sales tech, and so I've never had any of that in the jobs that I'd had. I've been in sales for like 10 years. Never had any of that. And what I was really thinking of was, what's the silver bullet that gets me past most gatekeepers? My first idea was law firm, Thompson and Thompson. I thought, that's probably not going to get me anywhere. But what's something? So I was just playing out the conversation that you would have with a gatekeeper. What's it about? How do I solve that with a company name? Or where are you from? How do I solve that with a company name that makes someone go, oh, I'll put you through then? And it was the first one. We have a meeting. That was literally it. Oh, we have a meeting, then, oh yeah, I'll put you through. And obviously, when you make those first cold calls for a gatekeeper, you told my receptionist we have a meeting. Oh, no, that's the company name. Oh, most of them, there was a few that were a bit pissed off, but most of them laughed. So there's one thing I want to do, actually. I want to backtrack, something that we often don't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'd be comfortable saying this. Your experience in B2B sales before you were part of this business was what?
Nil.
As in?
Like nothing.
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 At all. You'd done sales.
Well, I had, but the thing is, thinking back to when I've done B2B, I did B2B for about 6 months. But
about Reed?
No, that was working at Reed.co.uk was B2C.
Arena Sports.
That was B2B.
We'll have to say company names.
I don't know.
Assume so.
Forget it. I've had my stint in B2B, but if I'm really, really honest, when I was 22, 23, I was just drunk for the whole time.
It's great, wasn't it?
It was brilliant, but I remember going into work and just being like, I don't remember. I wasn't selling. My idea of selling, and this is the whole thing of like, you can really, in 6 months to a year, I feel like if you put the work in, you can really learn and get good really quickly.
And I think that is almost the thing that salespeople should take away, because there's people who've been doing this for years. You get messages off people, how do I crack it? So if you were to advise someone who's where you are now, wants to almost, I'm going to have to fake it a bit here, I'm going to have to get in and just do the work, how did you prepare yourself to deliver, be confident, and you were getting results in your first day? So what's the blueprint to actually make that happen?
A lot of self-learning, a lot of listening, a lot of like really nailing it and just thinking and just like, I think it's the blueprint that we follow, but like I was like, I'm gonna delete that bit of it. I have that bit of me that can go in there and make small talk and report, and a lot of my sales career have been, bloody hell, what are you doing this weekend, Nora? Oh, it's gorgeous, isn't it? Yeah, I've got a family that live in Brighton as well. Whatever. It's
yeah.
No, but so believable.
Oh, amazing! Yeah, unbelievable.
They used to laugh when I worked at read.co.uk. I'd be speaking to somebody and they go, yeah, I've got 3 kids. And I go, yeah, I've got 2 little ones. And everyone's looking around at me and this 21-year-old thinking, you've not got any kids. Not that you bloody know of. But I just used to make rapport just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
And I was great at having conversations. The selling bit, maybe not so much. Do you know what I mean? Like I was all right, a consumer, and it's a different, B2C is a different game. But I think like really just like, I'm going to build a structure and I know that I'm going to repeat that every time. Like it doesn't have to be, and you've got to be quick on your feet and you've got to think about different styles and things like that. And you've got to be like, right, okay, I'm meeting with this kind of personality. And sometimes I sit down with people, I'm like, you want a bit more pizzazz on a discovery meeting, the way that they come in. And I'm like, well, I can give you that because I'm kind of interchangeable. But it's like, if you come on and you're a moody CEO and you're looking at me, I'm not going to be all jazz hands.
Why?
Because it's matching their personality and it's like, brilliant. Okay, good to see you, Derek. So I guess before we get started, there's a lot of housekeeping. You got your credit card ready.
Why is that important though?
What?
So you can give it the pizzazz and the jazz hands and the cruise singer.
Mm-hmm.
But then if Derek, the moody CEO, turns up, why can't you do that to him?
Have you ever heard of a phrase, people buy from people?
I've heard of it.
Does it make you feel sick?
Yeah.
Cool. Because what does that mean? People buy from people. Obviously, I'm not a horse. I'm not a horse that's going out selling to people. People
you say
buy
horse?
Horse.
Good.
Yeah, I'm a person. I'm a real life human being, not a human doing. People buy from people who are like them, and that's what people want to. They're like, okay, you're relatable. I kind of see something in you. It's the whole mirroring tactic that, and I'm sure we'll kind of touch on at a later point. But that's it. So it's just, I think people get scared about this. It's like, okay, when it comes to selling, a lot of people are like, well, this is my personality. I'm going to be this kind of person. Okay, well, think about the different social settings that you get into. So you've got your friends, you've got your work, you've got your partner, you've got your family, you've got maybe your grandma, maybe you've got your great grandma. The person you are around, the person I am with you is not probably the person I am with elderly relatives. Okay, there's a level.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, there's a level of I'm always me at my core. What are my values? What are my attributes and stuff like that? But also, you do have to wear different hats in life, and that's life. Like it's like if I'm going to church, for example, with a friend, it's not something I do often. But if I was to find out, I'd be a different version of myself than if I was to go to a drum and bass night.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I remember one of the first posts that I did on LinkedIn that got any sort of conversation going was around that idea that there is no authentic self. There is no, it doesn't exist in the way that, and I know that's like, well, yeah, of course it does. That's what you see all people on LinkedIn. That's how I built my business, letting everyone know that I was an ADHD ridden alcoholic. That like, oh yeah, that's how you grew your business. That's when I see people post that, I think, fucking hell, I want to work with that guy. But it was actually about that there is no authentic self, and you have to wear many hats. If you didn't, you wouldn't make it in this kind of job. You have to be.
Of course.
If the focus of the sales conversation is what it should be, that it's all about the buyer, all about the other end, you are interchangeable buyer to buyer.
Yeah, of course.
That's where the magic happens. You know?
And now, as employers, we've got a growing team. There are conversations that need to be had. There are difficult conversations. There's a play Jack and Zac, and there's a get down to work Zac and Jack, and there's a I need to do something very serious, or I need to have a very serious conversation.
Yeah.
Now, you're not going to steam into... It's situational. You're not going to steam into those things and be like, well, you know me, we like to have a laugh anyway. I'm sorry, it's come to an end. You're going to change depending on situation, and I think that's important, that the same thing applies in the world of sales. So I think that's one of... If we're going back to the original point of Blueprint, it's like removing self. Like, okay, well, this call isn't about me. This call isn't to tell you how amazing I am, how great I am, the fact that I was working in Miami on a cruise ship singing Motown. None of that really, that's not building rapport. They don't need to know about that, because I'm going to ask you, what is somebody's favourite topic to talk about?
It's themselves.
There we go.
You're going to say football.
I was going to say Manchester bloody United.
Come on, you Blues.
But so you were talking then, and we were talking about authentic self and stuff like that, and then you started speaking about LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we should touch on LinkedIn quickly, because I think I've got 2 LinkedIn accounts, and I've always had a LinkedIn account.
Send the other one. I know what that's for. Don't you worry about that.
Winky face. I didn't even have the LinkedIn app before this job. I didn't know like LinkedIn was a thing. I thought like every now and then the boss of your company would come around and say, we've done a blog, can you share it? Yeah, and I'd do that, and it's like I didn't really get anything of it. And then you were telling me about like ideas that you were posting. You're like, I've just posted this, what do you think? This was in the run up, maybe July to December. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm going to post on LinkedIn. It's like I'm going into this job. It's a great tool for leads. I'm going to try and get good at it. And I remember one of the first posts, I just wrote about a cold call that I had, and I tagged Benjamin Dennehy, because we respect Benjamin Dennehy and we look up to him and his methodologies. Shout out Benjamin Dennehy if you're listening. And he commented on it, and the post kind of did a bit of a
Mexican wave.
Yeah, this is a cold LinkedIn account that's got no followers or whatever, and then it kind of started bubbling all these things. And then people saw what we did, and people started getting in touch. Yeah. And I thought, and people say, like, how do you use LinkedIn for lead generation? This might have been day 4 in the business.
Yeah.
A post like that, and I was like, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to, and you know I'm a bit excessive with it anyway. I was like, I'm going to post 3 times a day, every day, Monday to Friday, for a year, and see what happens. And it was the same logic as you said earlier. If I call X amount of people and I book 2 meetings every day, well, I'll have 40 meetings. And if I can't do anything with that, well, if I post 3 times a day and I'm being seen by 3,000 people a day, well, over the space of a year, that's 100,000. If I can't do something with 100,000 eyes on me, something's wrong.
That's it's the thing that you put the odds unreasonably in your favour. That's what you're looking to do. And just stack all the odds unreasonably in your favour. If you post every day on LinkedIn, if you book 2 meetings a day, you've got to weigh it so it's all totally unreasonable. So really you're based on objective evidence rather than subjective, oh, that was a bad call, that guy didn't like me, the product's shit, my posts aren't doing as well, the algorithm's against me. You'll always find a narrative that'll suit whatever bias you're dealing with that day. It'll suit whatever story that day. I don't want to work as hard today. Your brain will find ways to make you not work hard. What it's about is putting those habits in place that are purely objective. No matter what, I do those anyway. They happen anyway, no matter how I'm feeling. And in doing so, I'll have evidence that backs this up rather than some days I'm on, some days I'm off. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I love it. And maybe we should touch on mindset and then we can kind of seek back into the story and see where we were as we were.
Like a snake, that wasn't
like
it?
A snake hit. But no, I think I talk about it and it's like the evidence shelf, the metaphorical evidence shelf, whereas, okay, well, look, if I do this enough, I know that this happened, so I put that on my evidence shelf. So if it's like I feel, and I use it in life, like if I feel like I've upset my partner, it's like, well, last time I did that, I've done this thing 5 times before and it's never upset them before, so why would I be worried? So it's always going based on evidence rather than feeling, because like you were saying there with the bias, we can convince ourselves that the world's going to end if we want, but base it all on evidence from the past. And it's like, as 2 young dashing men who are running a business, I'm talking about me and you, by the way.
I was going to say young.
But like, we know that we've always come through.
Yeah.
There's been highs, lows, ups, downs, big wins, big losses, all those different things. But we know that we always make it through. And you engrave that on a compass for me as a first year present. What does it say?
It says, we'll make it work, son. We always do.
And that's it. There's enough evidence now in the last year to know that we can kind of overcome things. So
that to that point, that was almost a mantra of that first year. We'd chat about, right, here's this problem that we've got, whether it's internal or external problem, whichever one it was. And most of those calls would get signed off with, well, we'll just make it work. We've always made it work, we'll make that work. And I can't really think of... There's some stuff that we can probably get into that was lesson learning, but there's nothing that's been a major fuck up or a PR nightmare for us or anything like that.
And for anybody that wants to start a business, that's thinking about starting a business, or they want to start something of their own, I think the biggest skill that you've got to conquer is that problem solving ability. If you can think on your feet and it's just like, right, okay, there's a fire here, I'm going to put that one out, that one out, that one out, and all will be fine. That is the biggest thing that we've had. Present us with any problem, we don't know the solution. Do you know what I mean? We might have the experience or the evidence, but we will find a solution, and I think that's why it works.
Yeah, exactly. There's also I don't think everyone's got it, and I've heard this a lot about people who start businesses, but there's that kind of risk appetite. So just being pretty comfortable, like when I tell people, I only had a month's wage in the bank, had to work in that first month, people start sweating on my behalf. But it's the risk appetite, and there's been months early on where you came to me and said, can we pay for a dialer rather than working off our mobile phones? And how much was the dialer?
The dialer was £30 a month.
So it's £30 a month.
I was calling people on my mobile and they were going, I think I want a meeting, but I can't bloody hear you. And I go, it's the fucking signal in this box.
And what was my response to £30 a month?
Can't afford it.
Yeah. £30 a month. Couldn't afford it. And then there was a point where it was like, well, we have to get a dialer. We've got a client that's demanding a lot more numbers. But it was a case of, right, well, it's really, some stuff's got to get magical this month. There's got to be some payments made and all this sort of stuff. But it was very early on, and obviously we were paying for the office in Manchester as well. So you came in as an unproven cost. You'd never done this before. You just sort of gave me your word that you were going to learn and listen to what I said and work on, do the reading, put the effort in, and going back to that, just unreasonably stack the odds in your favour. I'll do everything I can. If it doesn't work, then it's not for me.
Why do you think it worked?
For you?
Well, for us coming together as two friends, I would possibly say you've got two best mates, it's unproven, and they're living at other ends of the country. This probably isn't going to work.
Yeah.
So why do you think it worked?
I think with the things that we've got in our favour, always uncomfortable, isn't that, blowing your own trumpet, but we're very disciplined. I'd say we've both got that in common. We're able to make promises to ourselves and to each other that we keep. Like you're saved in my phone as Jack, never let you down, which you saved yourself in my phone as about 10 years ago.
Like, have I ever let you down?
No, and it's always the thing you've said, like, mate, I'll never let you down, even about stuff where we were just like living together and going out and getting pissed on a weekend or something. Like, no, mate, I'll be there. I won't let you down. I'll be there. So there's that, like, it's ingrained, that I won't let you down part. And I think it's this idea of self. It's almost like, I'll unplug myself and my biases and I'll plug them back in at the end of the day. But today, what I've got to do is I've got to speak to 40 people to book 2 meetings. That's what I've got to do. Yeah? I'm going to speak to them. Some of them are going to let me pitch. Some of them aren't. Some of them are going to have the problem. Some of them aren't. I speak to 40 people. 2 of them are going to say yes. And that's what I've got to focus on.
Yeah.
And I think because we surrendered to that, and the major thing, and I see that sadly, like a lot of young people struggle with this, is can you delay the gratification? Do I need to do the work today and get the reward today? Or can I do the work today and trust that at some point I'll get the reward? The dopamine comes from the work, not the reward.
And that, yeah, and I was reading, I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Do you know what the Japanese word for meaning is?
Ikigai.
Ikigai. No, you're not. You're a nice one.
Oh, he's got me.
No, I was reading that on the train down this morning, and that was it. And it's just kind of the flow state, the joy is in the task, not the result. And I think that's one of the things that, especially when we hired people, we said, like, this is what we're going to do. We can't promise you the world, but we've always stuck to our what we said we're going to do. And I think for me, the big goal was like, okay, I want to grow this big, and the same as you, and I want a little team that we can. And we said that with it being Manchester, we'll hire there first. I was like, we can get this, but I just need to. You were full up. I needed to be full up, and then once I was full up, I knew that if we worked it enough, we could hire again.
Yeah.
And
do you remember there was a point where I came to Manchester? You'd done that first post that had done really well, but it wasn't like a funny one. It was just about cold calling. You got some inquiries off it. I got some inquiries off it, and then we were both sat in those little shells at that co-working space, those little pods, doing meetings the whole 2-3 days that I was with you. And at the end, we were like, if all those came in, we'd be a bit fucked. But then you got full from those accounts, and well, why don't you tell the story? There was a point where something happened where we had to hire. So from you started and having full-time clients every day, Monday to Friday, to the point of now we have to hire. What happened?
Well, I was working with some mad clients, like when you said like come in and it might be like SaaS platform tech. One of the clients was filling. Do you remember one of the first one? And I drove to Leeds or somewhere to meet this millionaire whose sister owns half of Newcastle Football Club.
Right.
I took my girlfriend and we sat in this restaurant with this like self-made millionaire. He was like, "Oh, I'll show you my house." I was doing like booking. He owned a pub and he just wanted local businesses to come to the pub and see around it. I was like, this is
just
sick.
have a look.
Just have a look and just like know about the business thing, and if they wanted to do events there. I was like, this is just mental. And then they did this event that was successful and all these different things, working with marketing clients, getting them in front of like different e-commerce brands, and I was loving it. And then one client came on board, and I think, and this is what we do, is people always say, well, how could you, like, you'd have to study for a year to really understand our product. We took on a client that is the meaning of the word complex. Like, really, really, you'd have to do a degree to understand the ins and outs of what it does. And we said, well, what does it solve? What problem? And it usually boils down to three, doesn't it? If you're working in sales and you're selling something, it's probably solving one of three problems: time, money, and effort. So we took it down, and because of our structure and the way that we do it, we started working on that. On the first day, this big complex solution, I booked a meeting for I'm going to say it, one of the biggest dating apps in the world. One of the
No.
It was I can say it.
Of course you can say it.
Bumble.
Whoa. This guy booked Bumble.
This guy booked Bumble, like a CTO of Bumble, first day.
Remember you ringing me, mate. You're never gonna guess.
Go on, do an impression.
Mate, you're never gonna guess what I've done.
Keep going.
Go on. You know Bumble. Yeah. You know meetings. Yeah. You know the client. Yeah. Add them all up. I booked a meeting with Bumble.
Too true. Too good. And then they, like a lot of our clients, we got to a point where they wanted to ramp it up, and then we ramped it up again, and then they were really impressed, and they said, well, we want you to run a team. And I think that's kind of where we're up to in the story.
Yeah, there was so they were 1 day a week, weren't they?
To start.
Then
most of our clients start.
Most of our clients, and we, to be honest with you, we normally, because it's a risk for both parties, isn't it? Starting off, we normally suggest start off small and then just let us know how you want to build into it, rather than start off full time. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I think you went to 3 days.
Yeah, I went to 3 days.
Went to 3 days, and then it became I want to do it full time with. It was one person at first, and then maybe we can talk about what happened next. So I'll keep that thought. They wanted Jack and one other person. Jack and one other person. So then we started the unusual task of hiring, which is, who knew it was so weird?
God, to be a recruitment consultant in 2023.
So I just want to say, there'll be recruitment consultants out there that I had conversations with, and you know you are, who promised me they could get me candidates in. I never heard from them ever again. Yeah? And I reckon there's more that did that than didn't. Because it was, tell me about the business then, and I'm probably laying it out to them, and they're like, no chance. You might not pay. There was probably loads of reasons why. And then there was a recruitment consultancy in Manchester called Prime, who spoke to a really nice girl there who was really helpful and just said, we run these recruitment days. And I'd done one of those when I first left university. I'd done one of those recruitment days, and that's how I got picked up. It was in person. It wasn't like the pandemic version.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome to the pandemic.
But then we sat one of those, didn't we? What were we looking for? Can you remember what we thought would be a good hire?
I don't think so, but I feel like we just kind of went in and we kind of like gut. We've always based decisions on gut. I think we were looking for the tenacity. I think we were looking for people that we liked. That had been a big piece of advice. Like, work with people. People say, no, you don't hire the best. It's like, well, no, you've got to sit. I was gonna have to sit in a room with this person one-on-one for just not 24 hours a day. I do have a life as well, but do you know what I mean? All this time, you've got to like them. And I think because, and I hope you don't mind me saying it, because me and you are both quite abnormal, we were looking for a bit of weird and wonderful, a little bit of, what's the word? A little bit of spunk. Little bit of quirky. Let's go with quirky.
Yeah, we weren't looking for a little bit of spunk.
That's a phrase.
Is it? Yeah, and I remember sitting that we did the recruitment day. There was one guy who was doing magic tricks.
Yeah, I still got a video of him on my phone.
I don't know if you should admit that. there was some people doing magic tricks. There was people who I could tell because I remember what it was like who thought they needed to be there. They were looking for a bit of a stopgap after uni while they figured out what they really wanted to do.
There's always somebody that had done a drama degree that really wanted to be a performer but was looking for a sales job, and we spotted that a mile off because that was me.
What about when you got to audition?
Yeah.
Well, there was two lads that stood out. We were only looking for one. And one of them could start off quicker than the other, but one of them who stood out, young Yaya, what did he do in his interview that made him stand out?
He did a rap.
Say it again.
He did a rap. He was on screen and he did a rap about how he wanted to make that bread and get that commission.
Exactly. And one thing I remember at that process, that recruitment day, the way it worked was there's other businesses there, and you had this little pitch at the start, didn't you? Like, why you should come and work for us. And they were all saying, our incentive, we go to Ibiza if you hit target, and all these mad things that they could offer, and there's being you.
We've just got a dialer system put in, actually. £30 a month,
We don't have an proper office yet. And I thought, true to what our sales style is, I'll hit that head on. And Zac, can you tell us about we have a meeting? Well, the first thing I wanted to do was I can't take any of you on holiday. Can't do this, I can't do that, can't offer you that benefit. There is pizza and beer on a Friday, though, in the office room at the minute. And I was going like that, laughing. And and then he did a rap, and then there was Sam also in there that just came across really...
so personable,
came across really well, and those were the two front runners. We interviewed some other people as well that went on.
We interviewed some other people that and it was just like, we were at this deadlock. We were like, I love both of them.
I think I was leaning towards one, you were leaning towards the other, but we would say in an ideal scenario...
We could hire both.
You would hire both.
And then we spoke to them both, and Sam was like, well, I've got a holiday booked for X amount of this month, so I wouldn't be able to start for 6 weeks. We're like, well, that makes the decision. I'm gutted, but that makes the decision. And then the client came back. They wanted to. I slid into his DMs. I said, listen, are you still looking for work? He said, maybe. He toyed around with me a little bit.
He did.
Said, let's jump on a call. And he was I'd be the exact same. He said, well, cool, I've got some other interviews. I do like what you guys offer, but he said, let me go to the other interviews, I'll get back to you. I think half an hour later, we got a call from the recruiter, and she went, he's not going to go to the other interviews, he accepted the job. And then, bang, next thing you know, we're in a little 2-person office. So we've moved from the cubicle in Manchester, we moved to a new office, Bold Bauhaus in Spinning Fields. We had a 2-person office, and I was on the corner of these two. And it was like, right, the training begins. We were laughing about this the other day. The second day of training, I'm teaching these people to be salespeople, and then my laptop went kaput, and I ended up in some bloke's kitchen. He was in his dressing gown on the other side of Manchester. Said, yeah, just leave me your password, I'll get it all fixed. No, you dodgy bugger, I'm not doing that. So I'd left these 2 new starters for a while. We trained them day dot. From day 1, they were booking meetings for this client. Day 2, the meetings were coming in again. The client was so impressed. They were like, right, let's come over to Prague. Come over and visit us. So we went from saying, we can't promise you any holidays, to in their first 2 weeks saying, we're taking you over to Prague, all expenses paid.
I think there's one thing to comment on there that seems to have repeated throughout the bit. Obviously, there's times where it hasn't repeated. It's not a silver bullet. But our process is always bringing people with no experience or very, very little experience. Definitely no experience in this style. And all the best people, I think all the current team that we've got all booked in the first 1 or 2 days of this with no experience before. So there's something in either the hiring, the type of people that we hire, or the training piece. But even the training piece has evolved and changed since then. There's things that you like, we need to focus on that one a bit more, so let's do that for the next hire. Do you think it's the hiring or the training that means that they are off to the races quite quick?
Nature versus nurture, isn't it?
Is it?
It's a similar kind of argument. I think it's we hire slow, don't we?
Yeah.
And recruiters, maybe this is why they don't come back to us, because they get annoyed when we say like there's going to be 3 stages. One with Ben, our ops director, one then with me and Zac together, which is, you could call it an interview or you could call it an interrogation. It kind of depends on what office they're going for. There might be a bit of good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
And then the third one is they come in and the interview takes place from the team. And does the team think they'd be a good fit?
Yeah.
Culturally.
I mean, you step out the room.
Step out the
just
room.
Total candid. Here's what it's really like. Yeah, and culturally, are they a good fit? So the team always have the last say. But yeah, the process with hiring, I think, has gradually got slower in terms of let's really think about it. So I think what we realised early on was anyone can look good in a hotel room having an affair once a week. They can put the best makeup on. And that you can show up and say, "Look, I'm just like you. I'm all the same qualities you look for." But
we've seen it, and we've seen it time and time again, and then it's like, that's not really you.
No.
Whereas, true to a lot of the people that we hire and that are still part of the team, Yaya and Sam come in. What you saw there, and I always make jokes about Sam. Sam came in his interview. It was like he was interviewing me. He was like, "Come on, sit down. Can I get you a drink or anything? Do you want a little back massage?" He was just like that kind of. And Yaya was just absolute Yaya, like one of the biggest characters, and he said like, "I will be resilient, I will be tenacious, and I will just come in and make sure the job's done."
Like he was in the army. I will be tenacious, I will be resilient.
And they've both delivered on that, and they've both been brilliant, and they've both grown and had exciting clients and exciting opportunities and moved through the ranks.
Yeah, exactly. But there is something in people saying they can't book meetings in that first part of the job. The odds are stacked against them. They haven't got right systems in place. Even though Sam and Yo weren't on mobile phones, they were on Excel spreadsheets and dialer Amazon headset that fed back everything that's going on in the room.
They were, we watched a video the other day and they went, "No way, that can't be real." They were using wired headphones when they started.
Yeah.
Like, we've grown a lot.
But we've grown with the idea wasn't fully formed. It was about 40, 60% maybe there before it was like, well, we're just going to do it and we'll just make it work. This client's ready to go. We've never done a client like that. They need this level of data. They need this volume. Sound. We'll just find a way. Like we'll just make it work.
No. And I think this is where companies really go wrong. You could go and get 50 grand to 100 grand investment, make a fancy website, get the best headsets, buy the best data, get the SaaS tech, and then you guys get on the phone and they can't sell.
Exactly. I think seeking perfection is really procrastination. Like you should, if you've got a product or service that you can deliver, all the other stuff, all the cosmetic stuff, maybe not be in place, but you can deliver it, it'll solve the problem that it's supposed to solve. Get it out there and sell it. Because at that point you need evidence that it works. Not just you, your mum, your dad, your investors saying, "No, it's a great idea. Let's get it out there now. Let's get it out there and get it field tested." Market. Yeah, take it to market. So then Sam and Yaya came in. You still had some clients of your own. And then...
Well, I was working on the big client at that point.
You were working on the big client still with them, but then you had some of your own stuff as well still. There was still other clients.
Yeah. Other stuff to manage.
Other stuff to manage that was external to... So you had Sam and Yaya to manage, the big client to manage, and then you had some of your own clients still with the spare moments. It was...
And then new business. People wanting to say, "Would you be a good fit for us?" And then you were thinking about hiring as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I live in the middle of nowhere. I live in the countryside in Dorset, which is Jack lives in the city. He's got a million friends. I live in the middle of nowhere. You're my friend. And I was weighing up, where do I want to be? Where's going to work? And I settled on Bournemouth as the spot. I thought graduates, people who are hungry to get on the career ladder, make some money, probably get out of a bit of debt. Bournemouth felt like the right options.
You'd worked in Bournemouth before, hadn't you?
Worked in Bournemouth so I worked in London, and then I moved to Bournemouth, and that was where I'd worked before, so I knew the vibe and the people there. So then I'd come up to see you, meet Sam and Yaya, do some face-to-face stuff. And then I was interviewing for people in Bournemouth, and I was interviewing a lot of really bad people. I was actually starting to think maybe this isn't going to be the same. Because Manchester, it felt like...
It was all too easy.
Effort-wise, that we put in, we sat that day with Prime, Sam and Yaya. Right?
Yeah.
It was like quite a quick fix. I think I spoke to probably quite a few recruiters, but quick. And then that happened and we'd hired them. Bournemouth was very different. And then I met this bloke. I don't even know if he's still... It's called Liam. I don't even know if he still does recruitment anymore, but I was telling him I can't find anyone. He was ex-army, very matter of fact.
Was he a client?
He wanted to be a client.
He wanted to be.
That's how he kept. That's how
your
he got
sales strategy is you've got to do things for me if you want to be a client.
Yeah, he wanted to be a client, but he basically said, "Oh no, the problem you've got is all the recruitment companies are shit." I'm like, oh right. He's like, "Let me have a stab at it. I reckon I can get you someone this week." Oh, and I was with you in Manchester, and he said, "I've got this guy. I think you want to sit with him. I've got 2 guys for you."
Yeah, I know.
And one of them's called Jesus. One of them's called Gert. I thought Jesus would be the best name ever for cold calling.
Hello, this is a cold call. It's Jesus calling.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you need more meetings? What?
I've got Jesus on the phone. Do you know he wants to
That
speak
is
to
a pattern interrupt and a half.
Yeah, exactly. Sadly, it didn't work out with Jesus. I think he's gone on to do some great things though as well.
I've heard of him.
Yeah. I think he had a lion on Easter. And then I met Gert, who I spoke to on the phone. Just came across really well. Like had his own business before. Young lad, ambitious, worked hard, had the right kind of ethics behind him, the right values to want to do well. He's in Bournemouth. Right, that makes the decision easy for me. I'm going to get this office in Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Showed up, signed up for this little 2-person office, me, him and my dog. And then showed up and he was very similar to when you started. When I gave you the initial, here's the approach, here's how I want it to look. In terms of the training that I gave you, there was a point with you where you were like, I don't think that would work for anyone but you. I think that's suited to your personality.
Your personality is, I think... If we were to stereotype personalities, you are very CEO, direct, yes, you're fun, you're a good laugh, I like you.
Right, well I don't believe you now.
But you're very to the point, like you're not afraid to say that's that.
Yeah.
This is black, this is white, bang.
Yeah, exactly. And then just to backtrack on your first day, there was a point where maybe it won't work, and then you rang me. I think you booked a meeting, then you booked another one, but you rang me almost like a giddy child. Was like, it really fucking works, mate, doesn't it? This stuff really works, and you were buzzing about it. But when I was teaching Gert on his first day, he was really eager to learn, right attitude and stuff. But when I was telling him some of the stuff, he was like, "That wouldn't work though." Like, well, of course it would. And he's like, "No, I've never done it like that. I don't believe that would work." Well, hold on. Got my mobile out. I think we just bought Cognism. Pulled up a number of just anyone on Cognism. So I'll ring this guy, put it on loudspeaker. Spoke to him. Booked a meeting. Looked at me and I was expecting the praise from him. You know, the praise of wow, it really worked. He just went, "Fuck off, that was one of your mates." Didn't believe me. But he had the same thing where first day on the training at the start was just an hour.
Yeah.
And just get on with it.
Get on.
And just see what happens.
Yeah.
I'll coach you through it as you do it. I'll teach you the pattern interrupt and the questions and whatever, and just get on with it and trial by fire. And then, so he's the same, no experience in that type of selling. Second day, off to the races, booking meetings. So, yeah, there's something in the belief first. There's almost like a free fall moment of I've just got to believe this is going to work.
There's a formula, and now that we have a formula that we know works,
have a formula? Is that the next business?
have a formula, yeah. I'd still speak to clients that can't believe it, and they say, how quickly do you think you'll see results? Because you'll probably need a month to ramp up, and it's like, how do I say this without sounding really arrogant? Go on, we'll probably get results within the first day or two. It's it is that quick.
If we don't,
then there's a bigger problem.
And I think, mate, there's, I have meetings with people who are shopping around for other companies in the space, right? They're like, tell me about your cadences and stuff like that. Yeah, tell me about, like, what is it, email first? Is it this? We've had clients that come to us with, like, here's my list of household names. Amazon, Microsoft, the BBC, ITV that I want to work with. We've booked some massive companies with one step, which is one cold call.
Yeah.
One cold call to the right person. Here's the problems we solve. You probably don't have any of them. Well, no, I've got some of them. Great. Let's talk. We talk and we book. I don't get the long nurture stuff as much. And maybe that's my personality, but I really don't. I'm more disqualify, qualify.
I agree.
And if I can get hold of you and there's your mobile number and you're the CEO, you're the COO, whatever, and I can just cut straight through, speak to you on the phone, qualify you and qualify you out, we're laughing, aren't we?
What percentage of... So let's think about a lot of people that are making these cold calls, SDRs, AEs, 20 to 26 maybe older, whatever, but they're young people.
Mm-hmm.
And they see this and they see the CEO of Deloitte. If I was a 22-year-old SDR, my process might be thinking, what good have I got ringing the CEO of Deloitte? He's going to listen to me, think, who's this squeaky little kid? What does he know about business? Blah blah blah. And then so how, if you're a struggling SDR and you've got that kind of maybe imposter syndrome?
Got to be, hasn't it?
It's got to be imposter syndrome. So how do you get over that?
It's a good point. Great question. I think there's just an element of what's the worst that could happen? What is the worst that could happen? The worst really that could happen, I think you've got to split the thought up into, right, worst thing that can happen, I ring a busy CEO of a company, I stumble over my words, I don't get my pitch out properly, he bollocks me a bit, and he says, no, I'm not interested, he slams the phone down. I'll live to fight another day.
Yeah.
The other side of things, though, is you hit him with problems that he's sat in his office about, or her, or they, or them, sorry, shouldn't discriminate. Sat in their office about, and they're really, you know what, I've just been banging my head against the wall about that exact thing, tell me about it.
Go on, yeah.
Go on, tell me more. And the amount of times that happens with the big wigs, our sweet spot has always been C-suite. Getting hold of the decision maker.
Yeah, of course, always
qualifying them in, qualifying them out. So, I really don't get it. And the amount of times I sit down with people and they say, yeah, we're working on this email campaign at the minute to the CEOs of all the big investment banks. How many other emails do you think you're competing against? What are you doing to stand out?
It's the question I always ask. How many emails? If you're I think about how many emails I get in a day and how many you get, and we're a small to medium sized company. If you are enterprise and you're the CEO, do you think they've not got people reading through their emails to check what the nonsense is? What are you doing?
Exactly.
Like, there's tools out there to get people's mobile numbers, and if you're not, like, email and LinkedIn, they're so populated. Do you know what I mean? They're so busy. So the phone, less so, and the post, like, they're like my favourite kind, because you can really stand out with direct mail. It'll probably come back in 5-10 years and everyone will be doing it again and whatever. But I just think, like, emails just like I was speaking to them the other day and I've read amazing emails. I've had emails that have been like poetry about my life, like, we knew when you were 7 you went to karate and you played Bugsy Malone and all these kind of things. I think bloody hell, they've gone to so much research. That's amazing. Delete. Doesn't solve a problem.
Same.
It's irrelevant.
And honestly, I've said this before, I know it's going to sound mad, the sort of hyper-personalisation stuff is annoying. For me. Doesn't work for everyone. You were just alluding to then, like, your personality is more the CEO type. I find that annoying. I'm like, get to the point, and it's so, like, disingenuous as well. There's no way you sat there and cared about that.
No.
And you can't really find anything about them. Hi Zac, I saw that you studied music at the University of West London.
Cool.
I own a Les Paul and I'm learning to play guitar as well, hoping to... Like, that doesn't make me go, oh my God, where do I sign?
Yeah.
No one makes decisions like that.
No,
so I just don't.
There's a hyper personalization is it's just that it is what it is. I think there's a difference with being creative with copyright, and if you can really think of something different that makes you stand out, you're like, oh wow, bloody hell, that was a bit different, amazing. But people aren't thinking about that. And then, so you put all this time to create something really good, not using ChatGPT, like to create something amazing, a great piece of copy, you might be looking 30 minutes to an hour. And that might be bespoke to that individual. So that's 30 minutes to an hour, and they don't reply.
Yeah.
Same as research. Spend 30 minutes to an hour for them not to pick up, for them not to reply.
Exactly. So you don't, in terms of if the role of the salesperson is qualify in, qualify out, you haven't done that.
No.
Through that approach, you haven't done that.
No. If you're an SDR and an AE, or the AE or the person that's sitting these meetings is the doctor, you're acting as the receptionist and just going out to the market and finding out if they have the headache or they don't have the headache, or if they do have the headache but it's a brain tumour and they're motivated. We love all that, but it's like your job is to get them in. Have they got the symptoms? Brilliant. Okay, come on in. We'll see you. We'll see if we can fix that. We don't know yet. I'm not going to promise you the world. I'm not going to send you over to customer success.
Yeah. One of the signs, I think, of a sinking sales ship or a sales ship that's in demise is not, oh, there's a lack of opportunities in the pipeline. It's, you've got lots of opportunities in the pipeline, but they're all sat at maybe, might do, keep pushing back for a few days. Or pipeline is pretty lean. It's yeses and nos. You only really get added in once we start thinking that's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
If I leave a meeting with someone and they say, yeah, well, I need to think about it, Q4, whatever, I've laid out the expectation in a way that we agree what that means.
Yeah.
If you hit that point at the end of the meeting, you don't get added to anything. I don't follow up with you. You don't get added to the pipeline. There's no cadence that goes out. And people might think that, well, that's ridiculous. Is it? Is that ridiculous? Think, if he says, well, I need to think about it, give me a call back in 2 months. If I give him a call back in 2 months, is he going to go, oh my
Zach,
God, Zach, I'm ready. Really, we're just going to start that process again.
Yeah.
And in a way, the excitement window is different. So you're probably a bit less likely.
But the difference is, and you can maybe talk about this from your sales days, but if you are an SDR, putting things in the pipeline is going to keep your arse safe.
Yeah.
You look good. You kind of shows that is the KPI of saying I'm doing something good. Like, so many people fear for their jobs in sales roles because of toxic managers. Of if you don't sell enough, you'll be thrown out to sea. Because it's your business and we're running it the way that we do it, it's you're less like, what does putting something in the pipeline mean? What big deal? We have a meeting, you go, I've got all this in the pipeline. I go, cool. Who's paying the rent this month?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. It's a lot of sales processes in that SDR appointment setting, cold, whatever function you want to call it, are very, very dial, conversation time, real like weird metrics. Really, you can work the whole thing backwards. So you can say, you might say, how many appointments? Sorry, let's go even further. How many contracts do I have to get out for someone to sign it? Okay, this many. And how many signed contracts do I need to hit my target? Okay, so that's the first step.
Yeah.
How many meetings do I have to have that generate that amount? Okay. How many calls do I need to make to generate those meetings? Okay, and you just work it back like that. If that's the process, you can forget about all the other stuff. I'll just focus on, I have this many conversations a day, I book this many meetings. I sit this many meetings, they turn into this many quotes. I have that many quotes, they turn into this many contracts out, this many come back signed, and I keep hold of that whole process. And it's predictable every time. I just go through that process every time. And every company's slightly different. If I'm targeting marketing director for clever marketing, MarTech thing, might be totally different than if I'm targeting CFO about a ERP system or load or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's going to be different, but you just got to work out what those numbers look like. Chuck the dials out, chuck the call time out. You can fake those.
So where are salespeople or sales directors going wrong? Is it the false hope? Is it the lack of expectation? Where when you go into a business or you're sitting down with business owners and they're telling you about their problems and their woes and woe is me, where are they going wrong?
I think you can skew what the purpose is. So like, we're not an investor-backed business, just bootstrap, just do everything with money in the bank that we make off clients.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the companies out there are adding in investment money, and then the problem that you had thought that you solve is not what you do anymore. Yeah. The problem that you solve is keeping your investors happy, and investors that aren't in the business get a helicopter view of the business, which is, okay, well, what's the pipeline look like?
Yeah.
How many meetings are you sitting? And they start looking at, okay, it's KPI'd, and given the choice, we can skew the KPIs a bit, and everyone will do it at the level below. We'll do it to the level up, and the level up there will do it again. I've worked in loads and loads of businesses like it. Seen loads of businesses like it. I've worked in loads. Startups tend to be a bit better. The big blue chip corporates tend to, you can get hidden in the details a bit of, this sales director or this sales leader is performing really well, but when you look into it, it's like, it's just a lot of opportunities. It's not really, there's no.
What is an opportunity? It's hope, like you said, and hope never delivers. So you said something there that I wanted to touch on: money in the bank. One of our biggest rules, and something that I think has carried us through, and something that you said when we started, was unless there's money in the bank, we don't work.
Yeah.
I remember one of the phrases I used to use it. I kind of play with it now because I think when you start off doing your discovery meetings, it's a new business. You're like, oh God, a bit of imposter syndrome. Now I feel so confident in the offering and the service that it's fine. I remember like getting to that bit and it was like cash flow is king, like saying something like getting it in there. So I think when we look back in 3, 5, 10 years, I think that will be like one of the rafts that kept us afloat. So why is that, from your opinion? Why is that something that you came up with? Why is it so important?
Yeah, my nana was had this saying. She's still with us. I always think when you say your nana, people think that's how to. My nana always said when I was growing up, like, people value what they pay for. Obviously, I don't think she meant it in a B2B sense. I think she meant more of it
in
as
a
like,
meeting booking sense.
You value what you pay for, and it's true. You assign value to stuff you paid for. But if I've not paid for something, I'm not that invested in it. And businesses work commercial. B2B businesses are commercial entities that will make commercial decisions. So if you're like, oh, I'll pay you if you book X amount of meetings, I know the reality of that is you're going to sit those meetings, your sales cycle's X amount of time long. At the end of the month when I come knocking on your door to ask you for money for them, I've done my bit, but they're part of your sales cycle, or you're not good at selling, and you might not have had your return yet. So I'm just chasing money then.
And the business would be, you'd be out of business first month. Your wage would have gone. You're out of business. I love it when people say, well, actually our sales term, like our payment terms are 60 days. Cool. Ours aren't.
Yeah, that's I've said, yeah, well, ours aren't, so
we leave it there.
And just a pause, and then put the pause in a lot of those conversations is the magic bit, because then people go, well, right, well, let me have a chat. Because 60-day payment terms, it's not a law.
No. And this is the thing that I don't get my head around. It's like, I had one bloke once who was like, yeah, we'll do it this once, but if we move forward again, we'll be doing it on 60-day payment terms. I'm like, well, we won't, and that's fine. But it's like, you own a business. I own a business. I know what it's like. You could just go to the bank at any time and say, I'm just going to pay some money.
Yeah.
And I get there's like all payroll and all these things, but like, it's literally that easy.
Yeah,
I've got a credit card, I'll just pay it.
It's not a real thing. Money's not a real thing. Budget's not a real thing. They're all not. How can you? Oh, we don't have budget for something you didn't know existed before this cold call. Well, yeah, I wouldn't have thought you did.
No.
So that can't be an objection people hear and go, oh, well, no, you didn't have budget. So anyway, we're digressing. So let's get back to where we were. So Bournemouth started.
Mm-hmm.
The big client that we had there came on board. We were still taking on new business. So We hired in Bournemouth a bit more.
And then it was like someone shoved a rocket up We Have a Meeting's arse.
Yeah, there was a point, wasn't there, where in that first year, I feel like it was maybe first year, like coming into summer or something like that. The summer,
yeah.
When it really, really went mad.
We were sat on, like, in Manchester, maybe 7 employees?
Yeah. Brought in some more employees. We did an event in Manchester. Yeah. We brought some people. There was a lot going on. But in that, we did make some bad hires. Mm-hmm. And I think I had the bad hires first. And not bad like bad people.
No.
I don't think we've ever had anyone that we've worked for that has been a bad person.
No.
But they've just not fit. They weren't as advertised.
No.
In the interview.
It was like they looked like a Mercedes-Benz when you picked it up, and they drove like a Hyundai i10. Maybe? I don't really know cars.
I don't know anything about cars.
No.
But there was some bad... And then that is a thing that I've never done managing people in any of the jobs I've done before, so there's almost a lesson in how much do I put in before I take out, and what do I do when I've found something and someone's taking the piss, and then I find it again, and I see it again. Where's the point? And it was at that point that we thought, maybe there's another role here that we need to help us run this ship. I had about 4 in Bournemouth. Mm-hmm. You had 7?
Something like
8
that,
maybe in Manchester. And we needed another role. And what was that role that we needed?
I think we're talking about the right role.
Go on.
We might be an operations director?
An operations director.
Right, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And really, it needed to be someone that we could trust. It was a bit like the first hire. Mm-hmm. This is someone who's going to be running the finances, really going to be like the backbone of the business. It's going to be someone who's holding the things up, who can make it a legitimate, legal, above board. It can do all the things that we'd probably neglected.
I think it was a combination, because I would say skill set wise and personality wise, we're very similar. Mm-hmm. Like you can put us and be like, okay, values, all of that all kind of adds up. These two are kind of very similar people. We need somebody to come in with the skill set that we didn't have, and it's so important when hiring, like hire people that don't hire the same people as you. Hire people that can bring something to the table that you've not got. Like
exactly.
And I think we found that with our next hire.
Yeah, but we still wanted someone we could trust, and that we knew, and that we knew him outside. And then weirdly, we were at a friend's 30th, and one of our good mates at the time, I would say, I knew better. Mm-hmm. Me and our now operations director Ben Owen, we'd played in bands together growing up. We'd moved to London together.
Lived in London together.
So we go back maybe as far as we do. I've probably known him the same amount of time roughly, but he went to the rival school.
He did.
So if anyone's watching from that school, no. And he just came up to me and said, "Look, I've seen what you're doing with the business. If you were ever looking at this kind of role, this kind of operations piece, we should have a chat." It was weird. It was like, we are looking into that.
Do you know what else was weird? That same 30th birthday party, while you were in the corner having a conversation with Ben about operations, I was in the corner having a conversation with Rosie.
Oh, yeah.
Who we hired, who's brilliant, one of our sales reps. And it was like, so around our friend's 30th, he was like, "Yeah, I might have a party next year," or as you like to call it, your annual recruitment fair. We hired 2 people at the same 30th birthday.
Yeah, I remember that. And yeah, we can talk about that one in the Rosie one. But yeah, Ben, and it was a similar conversation that I had with you around, what do we do about preserving the friendship if anything went wrong? What are the kind of the ground rules? What are your expectations for me? All that sort of stuff. And then when we brought Ben in, it became like a grown-up company. There was no more Excel spreadsheets. We got a proper system in place, HR policies, payroll systems. It just suddenly became something that would be fine if me and you weren't around. Like me and you were here today. Mm-hmm. It's a working day.
We've been for lunch.
In that first year, this probably wasn't possible.
No.
We'd have to be very there all the time.
Yeah.
To help with stuff. Now there's just data dial-ins, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's all fine. There's the middle management bit. It's all sound.
The world's not going to blow up.
The world's not going to blow up.
Jack and Zac are recording a podcast.
But the Rosie one is funny because I think you'd had a chat with her. You were a bit more giddy than me.
What do you mean by giddy?
You were a bit more on your way.
Drunk?
I mean drunk.
I was drunk.
Yeah.
It was a 30th birthday.
Yeah. No.
I had a gin or two.
You had a gin or two. And then Rosie came up and you were like, I really fucking like Rosie. She's great.
You got to meet her.
You got to meet her.
She's crazy.
And then Rosie was like, almost like pitching as if, but in this like noisy 30th birthday while she can work with us. I said, you couldn't do me a massive favour, could you? Like, I'm so keen to chat to you about this. Could you take Jack's number and when we're all sober, if you still feel this is a good idea, just text Jack and we'll set an interview up. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll have to stop you there and we'll pick it up when you.
Then she didn't get in contact.
Did she not?
For a week. I think she texted me on the Friday. I was like, I thought she was brilliant. Oh, that's a shame. I was like, well, I'm not going to chase her up. It was drunk talk, whatever. Friday. Hi, Jack. Still, and she was like, I didn't want to seem too keen. I was like, no, we were waiting. We wanted to hire. And then we kind of, that was the point in the summer where we hired a lot of people and it just grew into this bit of a machine.
Yeah.
Events were going on, training was going on, lots more client, word of mouth was getting out there, and we were just kind of chugging along.
Yeah, there was a lot happening, and then there was some lessons that I think needed to be learnt at that point, weren't there? Around, I think there was a management piece. One of the things we wanted to do was like really stand out as this great place to work.
Mm-hmm.
I think we are in the space. I think a lot of the stuff that we do and what you get, you don't get anywhere else.
No.
I don't know any other sales company that offers, like one of the things we offer is everyone gets a therapist.
Yeah.
I don't know any other sales companies that offer that. It's
because I think, and some of the teams that, and it's acknowledging the elephant in the room. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you that.
I'm carb loading, alright?
No, it's acknowledging it. It's like the job, cold calling, prospecting, it can be shit at times.
Yeah.
Like, whereas other people come in, you're going to be a business generator, you blah, blah, like, yeah, it is. Like, there's highs, there's lows, but it is what it is. It is a bit shit at times. If we can make the environment around that fun, so you come to work, you love it, you have a laugh, you get the job done, you get to go home and you've got a paycheck at the end of the day, brilliant.
Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of, and we've had micromanaging bosses, we've had twat bosses, we've had toxic bosses, we've had all of the bosses that you could imagine. I've had great bosses, and we both said, well, we want to be the boss that we kind of maybe never had.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest lesson I've learned about kind of leading a team is you've got to, firm but fair is kind of like keeping a hold on it and just like treating people how you'd want to be treated.
Yeah. And
like just like really that respect piece, which isn't there. Like we are a team.
It's I think the two-way street that though.
Yeah.
And the ones that haven't worked out are the ones that haven't got the attitude bit.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the first. If the attitude isn't there in the tripod of things that you need to do, it all falls over. And I've got rid of people that were delivering, but just attitude just wasn't there. I just couldn't get on with them. It didn't work, and they didn't pass the probation. And then people, isn't the purpose to? No, the purpose is sustainability.
Yeah.
It's to last. It's to build a culture. It's to make it so.
It's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Yeah, exactly. So I can find someone else that's got both, rather than just making something work that's got that kind of cancerous element.
It's very quick. If you come in and you're a rotten fish and you poison the water hole, it doesn't take long until everybody else is kind of running along the same lines.
Exactly. Do you want to touch on, and then we can move on to some other stuff, but do you want to touch on just client stuff, the client, because obviously in a weird way, working with clients is a bit like hiring as well. We hire clients into the business. We fired clients that have not worked with them anymore. Clients have fired us and not worked with them anymore. Clients have hired us and thought it was great.
Gone away. I've had clients that have hired us, gone away and be like, yeah, I don't think it's working, and then come back and be like, actually, yeah, the deals have landed now. All right, that's weird because you're here 6 months later, but your sales cycle is 6 months. Did you not think that was going to happen?
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think is different from the way we used to bring people in to the way we bring people in now in terms of let's talk about it from a purely, I'm sat in front of you, I know you've got the problem, through to working with us now, how it used to be, how it is now?
Well, I think we really set the expectations, and it's that push away of like, there's so many things. If you're working and you're looking to generate new business, I could list off things now. Use LinkedIn, hire a sales team, use your referrals, rent a banner on the M32. Is that even a motorway?
M32, one of the best motorways in the world.
I thought you'd like it. There's so many things that you can do. You should be cold call yourself. Do you know what I mean? All these things. What before you hire us?
I thought you meant cold call yourself.
Hello, is that Jack? Yeah, it's Jack speaking. Yeah, it's a cold call. No, it's a cold call. Sorry. Yeah, there's so many things you can do. So it's that hard push away. Why didn't you do that? And like, why do you even need to do it? Like that thing. But really setting those expectations. And I think we worked out how many meetings we book as an average across all of our clients. It typically comes in around the 1.4. But at the end of the day, if someone working for you, I'm not going to go, hi, Zach, here's your 1.4 meetings. Yeah. You get 0.6 of a bloke next week. It's a case of like, well, I'd rather under-promise and over-deliver, because if you set the expectation too high, and I used to, especially when I was on the phone, I was like, I know what I'm capable of. But if you set the expectation too high, and then there's a day where you go, well, typically I bring in 2 meetings for you every day. And I've got one, but it's with Bumble. They go, right, well, where's the other one?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point, actually. I've never even thought of it that way. In the early days, we were almost just selling ourselves like freelancers. But when you sell the business, there's kind of the process behind the business. And there's things that we do where we would match someone that Gert would be really good at. Sam might be really good at someone else. You wouldn't put a client like, oh, that's a Gert client, or that's a Sam client. You think of it more from like the business side. Whereas when we started off, I think there was more of that, well, we'll make that work. Like, we were saying before about the sort of mantra for that first year. Well, we'll make that work. We've never sold that complex tech solution to e-commerce before, but we'll just make it work. We'll just do the numbers. We'll make that work. Can't expect people that you hire to want to do it that same way. They just want to I'll do the 9 to 5 and I'll do it the right way. But what happens, and there's some science behind that. So, yeah, I think that's important. And I think a line of question that I never used to do, that's one of those like real kick yourself moments, is when I'd have this conversation with people around what are your expectations for the first month. Oh, well, to see the return on investment, I'd have to close one of the meetings that you book. Okay. So when was the last time that you worked with an agency that booked you a meeting from cold and you closed it in the first month? I've never done that before. Okay, so where's the evidence to make that a requirement?
There is.
What's that based on?
Yeah.
Why isn't? And then they start moving and they say, well, I want to sit some good meetings then. What do you mean by good meetings?
Clarify.
And then what's your current sales cycle? It's 3 months. Where'd you get your meetings from though?
Inbound leads.
So inbound leads take 3 months. Cold leads aren't going to take 3 months, are they? They're probably, let's say they're going to take double, 6 months. You're going to work with us for a minimum of 3 months. Month 3, it sounds like quite a high likelihood that you wouldn't have seen any return on investment. So I don't know how you're going to justify that to yourself. Well, and then the tables have turned. I've always had that approach of like turn the tables, but that bit of really managing that expectation, the clients where it's not quite worked out or it's got a bit weird, have been the ones that, well, I sat that meeting, he showed up, he had the problems, but he's not ready to go yet. Okay. Well, you said you'd get me in front of people at the right time, and yeah, he's got the problem, but I couldn't close it. But that's not.
Yeah.
And it's just like they don't really. You almost got to spell out the.
What do I do?
Yeah.
And what do you do?
Yeah.
And I think, like, I tell people, it's like, if you think that you're going to use us and we're a miracle cure, like, we're not a silver bullet. Like, we know that if we do the right things to the right ICP consistently, we'll generate results.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it is. There's no mad magic to it. We're doing something else that nobody else is. Maybe our methodology and our approach and the way we use pattern interrupts and our style of selling might be different to another agency or another cold caller that's just going, "Hello, it's Jack. How are you today?" Blah blah blah. But there's no like magic cure.
No.
Really, you've got to get on the phone, have conversations, and find that pain and motivation. You can be good at it, yeah, but I think that's where, if your expectations are you're gonna come in and I'm gonna give you £1 and I'm gonna get £50 back at the end of the month. Well, has that ever happened before?
Yeah, it's really manic. Yeah, really dealing with that side of things. But
and we've lost business from it.
We've lost business. Where people have disappeared. People said I only work on a.
Have we lost business? No,
we never had it.
We've never had it, so we didn't lose it.
But we've definitely had clients that we took on in the early days that stayed with us for a long time, but ended up hitting this point where, well, let me show you the opportunities I've generated in Salesforce or whatever. Like, millions in there in opportunities. No, the issue now is that we can't close anyone, and then what happens is it's easy to look our way and say, well, I'm not closing any of them. But they're in there as opportunities, so you quoted them. Yeah, but they're not converting. Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah, keep going. Well, that must be, maybe there's something that you could say differently on the cold calls. You've not got, but then that's on us to not manage that process and that purpose at the front end, which I think we do better now, and as a result, people are a lot more realistic about what's happening. If you want to be sat in front of people and you think you can sell and you're good at it, we'll work together well.
Yeah.
If there's a bit at the end where the process isn't quite right, you've not really thought about that end, timing's not right. Like, get that bit right. What happens when it gets to you? Really tell me about what happens when it gets to you. And then what if they disappear? What if they ghost? Like, really get it. Once you've got it, we're laughing.
Yeah, and I don't know how you find it, but when I'm on a lot of meetings, I'll get to the point where, and some of the meetings get a bit like brutal, and that's not my personality, but sometimes you have to wear that hat and say, like, actually you're the problem. And like, I've had people cry on meetings before and like get really like emotional because it's like a bit of a wake-up call. I had a business coach that came to see me that was working with no clients and wanted a load of clients. And like, mate, before you come and give us 10 grand, you're not working with any clients. What are you doing? Well, I'm going to a lot of networking events in the day and stuff like that. But you're a business coach.
Yeah.
The first step of a business, like,
it's generating,
is revenue driving tasks. Like, that's where you've got to be your time. And I'm guilty of it sometimes. I'll look in my calendar and I'll be like, why have I got this today?
Yeah.
And then you kind of got to go through and be like, right, back to basics. Where is the money? Where are the money conversations? What can I be doing to drive this forward?
Yeah.
But it's and you've got to have really hard conversations with some people. And surprise, surprise, the people that you have the hard conversations with respect you more, and you might not work with them, but you know what? They might be speaking to someone else, and we get a lot of referrals and word of mouth stuff as well.
You know, people I spot that could be doing something for free, and I spot it there and then, and I could tell you. I mean, I'll give you one for free. All right. Marketing agencies, a lot of marketing agencies have a specialism in something. Yeah, SEO, PPC, whatever. You go onto LinkedIn and you type in "looking for SEO agency" or "looking for PPC agency." You press enter. You won't just find people with the name "looking for." You'll find people who've posted
looking for Frimston.
You find people who've posted for an active requirement, right? And then the look on people's faces when I tell them that in a meeting, I go, and that solves your problem, doesn't it? They go, yeah, and I feel like I've wasted your time now. No, you haven't wasted my time at all. But why don't you do that first, exhaust that, and then come back to me? Most of them come back to me. A few months down the line, I don't follow up with them or anything. It's like I don't rely on that. Oh, they're gonna come back. They're not anywhere on our system. They're nothing. I don't rely on them at all. But what happens is I've got this steady trickle of people come back to me that say, "Hi Zac, you mentioned I could get back in touch when we're ready to go and pick this back up. We're ready to go." But they've exhausted all the free stuff. They know that either it works or it didn't work,
built.
and the trust is built. I'm not there to steal your money, you know.
Okay, can I ask a bit of a direct question?
Yeah.
What would you say to the people that might say you're a bit barbaric for not following up on all these hot opportunities?
I'm barbaric?
Maybe.
I think it'd be the other way around, wouldn't it?
You're not barbaric.
I just don't... my own confirmation bias, I wouldn't buy like that.
Mm.
And I know there's the Grant Cardone stuff around, and a lot of the American style is just follow up till someone taps out. I've never ever bought anything like that. I'm either interested or I'm not. And if I'm not now, and it's like, oh, I might be in the future, your future is not anything to do with me. I'll leave you in charge of that. Get back in touch. Because what happens is that I think that's when businesses get a bit weird as well, when it's, that big deal's coming back next month. Is it?
Mm.
Do you know that for a fact? If you don't, should it be in there?
Yeah.
You don't want to have a big... It's almost like I feel like follow-up should be somewhere else. It shouldn't be part of your forecasting. Follow-up should be just... It lives somewhere else. It's the hope land. It's maybe. It doesn't get involved.
Maybe land.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
So, yeah.